The Red Army was immense, and the self-inflicted losses, 90% of the top ranks, represented just 0.5% of the whole. But a dearth of good officers to discipline, train, and lead conscripts was precisely its chief vulnerability. Conscripts, for their part, would not be sure who among their commanders would soon be unmasked as a foreign agent. Moreover, all of the Soviet Union's foreign enemies were watching. On June 24, 1937, the organ of the Wehrmacht, Duschwa, wrote that in shooting these well-known military brass of the Soviet Union, they self-consciously sacrificed fighting ability and leadership of the Red Army to politics. Tukhachevsky unquestionably was the most outstanding of all Red commanders and cannot be replaced. Supposed espionage, of course, is just made up. If the Bolsheviks maintain that the accused have confessed, that is, of course, a lie. The Nazi party organ, Volkshiker Beobachter, wrote of the USSR that a country with such a system of murder is still included in the group of civilized states. The Polish press gleefully pointed out that in light of the espionage charges in Moscow, the French General Staff could expect that any secret military plans it might develop with the Soviets would be passed to the Germans. The Soviet General Staff documented the foreign reactions. The damage was severe, but Stalin, far from being deterred, was just beginning. By contrast, his involvement in Spain had effectively peaked as of June 1937. Despite the accusatory exaggerations against both the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, Stalin, even more than Hitler, had deliberately kept his intervention on the Iberian Peninsula within limits. Altogether, between 11,050 and 1,500 Soviet combat personnel would see duty, including 772 pilots and 351 tank operators, a paltry number compared with the 19,000 Germans, let alone the 80,000 Italians who would fight. Another 500 or so Soviet military advisors would also serve, but only 9 Soviet political workers were sent to Spain during the entire war. Soviet deaths would be recorded at 125, plus another 43 missing in action. German dead would be estimated at 300. Italy would suffer 16,650 dead, wounded, and missing in action, and would expend at least 6.1 billion lira supporting Franco. The economic advantages anticipated for Italian support fell largely to Germany. Stalin's expenses would be significant in the form of loans that would not be repaid, but contained. Especially with the Trotskyite POUM crushed by spring-summer 1937, Stalin appears to have lost much of his interest. After summer 1937, little new Soviet equipment would be sent or upgrades made, while Soviet pilots and tank crews would be withdrawn, diplomatic ties downgraded, and the heady cultural exchanges terminated. Propaganda on Spain did not disappear, but in Soviet newsreels, China gained ascendancy. On this front as well, Stalin was annihilating his officers. NKVD bigwig Vsevolod Belitsky had been transferred from Ukraine to fabricate a Trotskyite fascist conspiracy in the Soviet Far Eastern Army, the country's critical line of defense against Japan. Within a few weeks, on July 7, 1937, Belitsky himself was arrested as a Polish agent. He had been in Stalin's little corner more than 20 times in the 1930s. En route eastward at a Siberian train station, he had unburdened himself of complaints about the terror to a fellow Chekist, who promptly denounced him to Yezhov. The assignment of eviscerating the Soviet Far Eastern Army fell to another butcher. On the country's southern border, Georgia's Beria reported to Stalin, July 9, that he had uncovered his own military conspiracy in the South Caucasus military district. The next day, Joseph Goebbels recorded in his diary that Hitler judged Stalin likely diseased in the brain, otherwise one cannot explain his bloody rule.